How you doing? So, this is a really cool shirt, but I remember now the reason I don't wear it is because there's no proper place to clip on that bloody microphone. There we go. That's good enough. You know, I have to be completely objective, and as a pretty hardcore philosopher, and I'm actually pretty hardcore, especially on metaphysics and monism and philosophy, I have to legitimately and objectively examine people's premise for wanting to buy a Nikon Z6 or Z7. Now, objectively, and I've used both, not extensively, but I can evaluate a camera really closely, very, very quickly, and you know, the camera's got many miserable attributes, but at $2,000, a full-frame mirrorless camera, the Nikon Z6, is it really that bad? Well, I mean, if you're going to use it for sports action and wildlife compared to like a $1,300 or $1,100 used Nikon D500, yeah, everybody that owns both cameras will tell you that the D500 will spank the ass of that $2,000 Z6 all day long. That's not even to mention the insanely overpriced Nikon Z7. But let's objectively examine the reasons why someone would want to buy either one of those cameras. And let's legitimately look at the $2,000 Nikon Z6. And there's got to be four premises for people wanting to purchase that camera. Number one is that someone had never owned a mirrorless camera before, and you know, they're a Nikon fanboy. And I'm pretty much a Nikon fanboy. I mean, I got Nikon tattooed on my hand. I grew up with Nikon. I guarantee you, Nikon has received more money from me as a person. I can't really think, other than like some sort of super rich person that like owns every Nikon lens made and like 6 copies. There's some Nikon lenses I own 6 copies. In other words, I've given a lot of money to Nikon, but objectively the camera is pretty shitty. The Z7 is a joke. You would never buy that over D850 for the same price. But I mean, I understand somebody wanting, as a Nikon fanboy, people have been waiting, many countless Nikon fanboys, including myself, was eagerly awaiting, you know, the Nikon mirrorless Z series cameras, and it's like, oh Jesus Christ, you know, poor implementation, 1 card slot, crappy autofocus, inferior interface. But then of course we have to look at the Fujifilm X-T1. When the X-T1 came out, I mean, and I owned a couple of them. Wonderful camera. A lot more user interfaceable than the Z6 or Z7 is, but with quite a few faults. Even at that time, it didn't even have an electronic shutter. That was added via firmware. So I understand someone wanting that. Second reason is that someone is so eager, and I was very eager myself, for Nikon to make a mirrorless camera that incredibly happy to purchase it. That's a very understandable premise. However, everybody that owned any of the pro Nikon cameras like D850, D750, D500, Nikon D5, Nikon D4, they all will tell you behind closed doors, instead of their, you know, bubbling happiness to own this camera. Yeah, my Nikon D5, D850, D500 will spank the shit out of this camera all day long. Not talking about image output. I never actually complained about the image output from either camera, but I mean, those cameras for autofocus tracking and speed, accuracy, user, it'll just blow the hell out of the Z6 or the Z7. Of course, they're not working professional cameras because they don't even have 2 card slots. And people can complain about that all day long, say, well, whoever has a card failure. Well, how often do you have a car accident? Either you still put on your goddamn seatbelt, don't you? Because shit happens. You know, let's face it, don't give me this crap. I never had a card failure. Well, your anecdotal account doesn't account for anything. Crap happens, and working professionals demand 2 card slots. People argued about that for months and months and months. The third premise is that people like me, who, for countless objective and personal reasons, really have no respect at all for Sony and their junk cameras. Let's face it here, until the night, forget about Canon. Everybody knows that Canon screwed the pooch on their mirrorless camera. They did. Even the Canon fanboys. Even that website, EOS HD, who loves Canon all day long. I mean, everybody was dumping objectively on that camera. So Sony, for full-frame mirrorless, there was no competition. Sony was boasting about how they're the the leader in full-frame mirrorless. Well, who gives a damn? You had no competition. Of course you're the leader in full-frame mirrorless. People that actually had a brain would not buy Sony's junk. And so what do you mean by junk? I mean, objectively, the stuff is junk. It's unreliable, poor ergos, poor menus, hurt your hands. I've actually never seen an awesome bokeh out of any Sony lens that they teamed up with Z6 to produce. And by the way, Sony's not a camera company at all. It's a consumer electronics company. So there's a lot of Nikon people who wanted a full-frame mirrorless camera, and legitimately so, the same as myself. They know that Sony sucks for countless objective reasons that I stated. So you got two choices. Well, you had three, but Canon doesn't count because that thing was really, really bad. Just bad. I mean, it's been a failure of a camera. By the way, I've talked to more than a few retailers. I says, how do those Canons? Canon is not moving at all. They've all told me the same thing. Doesn't matter if it's DSLR or mirrorless. They've all told me the same. No one's buying a Canon. So there's no competition. So I can see the Nikon fanboys that have waited for ages for a mirrorless Nikon. Like, I don't care if this thing's a crappy piece of crap with one card slot and poor autofocus, and it's a Nikon, and it's a full frame, and it's a mirrorless. I gotta buy it. I've been waiting too long. Really, objectively, you have to admit the fact that the only reason Nikon been selling quite a few Z6, not Z7, but they sold quite a few Z7s also, is that people have been waiting so long. It's kind of like someone that's dying of thirst. If you give them dirty water with some cat turds floating in it, they'll still drink it because they're dying of thirst. It's like, here you go, here's some cat turd water. So Nikon, ran into people that were dying of thirst for a full-frame mirrorless Nikon, and they didn't want to buy Sony crap, which legitimately I'm on their side for that. And they handed them some cat turd water, and the Nikon fanboys, they slurped it up. And I don't blame them for that. I understand the psychology behind that. They didn't want a Sony either. And there's no competition for full-frame mirrorless. I laugh so hard every time Sony would boast about being a leader in full-frame mirrorless. What the hell are you talking about? You got no competition for full-frame mirrorless. None! These past many years. Lastly, there are those with, and logically so, with a pile of Nikon glass that are so eager to get a mirrorless camera to go with that glass. They decided on settling for Nikon's mess because they got a pile of Nikon glass. They don't want to jump ship to Sony for countless thousands of reasons. They don't want to buy new glass, and they don't want junky Sony cameras with all their issues and faults and overheating and crap ergos and hurt your hands and poor menus. That's understandable. So there are these legitimate four premises under which Nikon has sold this Z6, Z7 series. The Z6, really only talk about the Z6. At $2,000, like, yeah, if you're doing still life photography, fine. Who cares about its crap autofocus and its inability to track? Because everybody that has a D850 or D500 and a Nikon Z6 and Z7, they will tell you, if forced to tell the truth, and most of them will tell you flies, like, yeah, my Z6 won't even hold a candle to my D500 for tracking action. But it's got great image output, which is, I never said that it did not. Ever did I say that. Ever. Never did I say that. No one denies that. Problem is it worth buying? And it's a first generation product. Same as Sony's A7. First generation, except way better than Sony's first generation. But at least the thing's got good ergonomics. Of course, you do have to buy that stinking ass adapter. Nikon really screwed the pooch, and they screwed their customers royally right up the poop chute by not giving away that stupid adapter for using Nikon. It's like, you want me to buy this new camera? It's your 100th anniversary. You should have done a loss leader, you stupid assholes at Nikon, and given away that damn adapter. You actually wanted to check. Now, I've had my hands and looked very, very, very closely at that adapter. It is a smart adapter, okay? But there's no screw drive mech in there. There's nothing other than a flexi cable leading to dual CPU contacts. It is a piece of CNC machined, wrapped with polycarbonate with a flexi cable and CPU pins on either side. Duh. Nikon, you screwed your customers on your 100th anniversary by not giving away that adapter. It's like, here's the camera, but you gotta buy the adapter. It's like, what, Nikon? F you. I've been spending God knows how much money over the countless decades to you. You should have given away that adapter, you idiots. You would have actually sold, it's an amazing thing, which would have, it's called a loss leader, right? Kind of like what horrible people on the streets do when they want to get you hooked on something. They'll give you the first sample. Not that I know about this, but like bad people on the street, if you buy an illegal product, the first sample, that's free. And you go home and you get hooked to it and you come back and then you really pay, right? Nikon could have sold more of those cameras if they gave that adapter away for free, you knuckle-dragging, crayon-eating mental midgets at Nikon. You really screwed up on that one, Nikon. That adapter should have been, at least for like the first 4 months. Like if you buy one of these damn inferior first-generation product, Nikon Z6 or Z7, we're going to give you the adapter for free. Nikon's cost on that adapter could not have been more than $20, $25. Okay? Their profit margins are substantially greater on the Z6 and Z7. Wonderful that they're made in Japan. I never complained about the build quality ever on the Z6 or Z7, nor did I ever bitch about the image output. Never did I. Okay? So, but those are the 4 legitimate reasons why people invested in these first-generation turd muffins. They've been starving out in the desert for a full-frame mirrorless camera, and legitimately so, they were not going to buy Sony's junk. They've got a pile of Nikon glass already. Logically so, they want a camera they could slap it on there. Unfortunately, they had to also buy an adapter, which the idiot scum at Nikon should have given away for free, but didn't. Idiots. Nikon, do you know what a loss leader is? Idiots. Could have sold a lot more of those cameras if you get, oh my God, this camera comes with a free adapter. Well, I'm going to buy that thing. They would have sold more cameras. Idiots. Nikon has got a horrific hubris problem. They are, just underneath Leica, the most arrogant, snobbish company imaginable. I love Nikon, but God, they're so insanely arrogant. They've got their heads so firmly planted up their backside. They really are, you know, it reminds me of a South Park episode where everybody in San Francisco was like sniffing their own flatus. Remember that episode? They'd pass gas and they, you know exactly the episode I'm talking. That's how Nikon and Leica works. We're Nikon. Whatever we give you, you're gonna love it because it's got Nikon's name on it. Right up there, it's got Nikon. That shit isn't working anymore, Nikon. Nikon's in financial difficulty, okay? Nikon's finally like, oh my God, we can't just like coast into the next century on our name alone. We're actually going to have to produce shit people want to buy here in the age of cell phones destroying everything, you know? Nikon's waking up. They're like, oh my God, we've been sipping pina coladas at the poolside for too many years. Everybody else is killing us. Like Fujifilm. Certainly not Canon, though. Canon's not killing anything except their own bottom line. Wait for it. Nikon.